So my typical approach in the morning is to bring everything out of the tent to a staging position, hopefully on rock so it stays free of dirt and whatever. I do that before I eat my breakfast. I'm thinking that that way I don't get hungry early and end up with trying to figure out how to do 2 lunches. So this is the pile. I have to roll up my air mattress still, but other than that, we're pretty well done. The green thing is my tent. Other bits and pieces. And then over here, in this quasi-level area, there's my 2 bear vaults and my chair and so forth. So this is where I'm going to put together my food. So that blue tub there, that's my lunch tub. So I make my lunch now, the sandwiches and whatever goes with it. I put that in and I put it at the top of my pack along with a full water bottle of Gatorade. And that way, in the middle of the day, all I have to do is just open the top of the pack, take what I want, and I don't have to make a mess. And it works great. So it's about 5 to 8 this morning, 21st of August, 2025. I'm feeling pretty good. I was very comfortable in the tent last night, but I had trouble getting to sleep, and I don't know why. There was no good reason for it, but that happens sometimes. But sometimes when you're doing physical stuff, the amount of sleep you use isn't as big a deal. And whatever, I'm feeling like I'm ready for another day. On a different tack, I took my weather forecast last night, as I always do, and the 20% chance of rain for Saturday has now gone to 90 with thunderstorms, and a 70 to 80% chance of rain on Sunday. So that was going to be the day where I was coming out of the Sturgeon River and camping somewhere here on Chiniguchi, and then the other day would be the one where I'm going to paddle back out. Now, I'm 64 and I have had my share of planned trips where I had to do it in bad weather, and I just didn't really want to do that, so I'm going to abort my trip. So instead today, so this is going to be now a 3-day trip. I'm going to go north of here into McConnell Bay and go down through Marjorie Lake and end up in Wolf Lake this afternoon sometime, and stay over on Wolf Lake tonight, and then on Friday I'm going to paddle back out again. And that should be a nice little trip as well. And Wolf Lake is just beautiful, and I was in there yesterday, and it's nice to be able to stay there and have a bit more time there, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, day 2 of my boarded trip to Chiniguchi. Water's like glass. Let's go see what we can find. Sand beaches are the best for paddling. They just are. You can get in, you can get out. Nothing too tricky. And it sure is nice compared to some of these. So on the top of that is where that trail leads from the beach, and that's where the cooking area was and the fireplace, and then in behind there was where I had my tent and so on. So anyhow, worked out pretty well, other than not sleeping, which is not the fault of the campsite. Campsite 1 on Chiniguchi Lake. The canoe landing was actually pretty easy. It was almost a sandy beach, which was great. It was still tricky to find level sites in this area. Water access, you had to come down to it, but it wasn't too bad. Cooking area in the back there worked out pretty well for me, but there is a crown there. Probably being a little generous on that rating there. Couldn't find the toilet box. The view from the site with the elephant in the background is pretty nice, and you can't beat the price. There you are, 75%. Hello, and thank you for watching this video. It is a pleasure to share my adventures with all of you. To help achieve my goal of at least 1,000 subscribers, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to Hiking with Henry and click on the like button for this video. It is completely free and would be of great help to me. Thank you very much. So I'm here at the Ranger Island campsite. Just going to quickly check it out. This is the view from the beach, and that's heading north towards Sawhorse Lake, which is the objective in this type of trip. And then that to the right is the entrance to McConnell Bay. So let's have a look. So we got a little fire pit, lots of gravel. Maybe a tent site there. And we got lots of nice soft stuff here, but it's undulating. Thankfully my tent's small, but boy, it's still tough to find flat spot even here. Look at this. But I think you could probably figure it out here. So I'm just going to go see if there's a thunderbox. This is certainly viable, and there's a beautiful 2-foot diameter red pine tree, old growth, right in the middle. This is really nice. McConnell Bay, almost completely calm. It's getting warm here, but it's pretty nice. So I'm going around to the left here to check these campsites out that are advertised with the sand beach. Everybody seems to want to go there, so I'd like to see what they look like. And then we'll head across and begin our little voyage today through these smaller lakes and the portages. So I've gone 3K so far. Nice and warm, and just beautiful. So there's the famous beach campsites at McConnell Bay. I'm going to go in and look at one of them, Seems to be no one here, which is surprising given the time of year and its popularity, but I don't see any canoes. So I'm going to try for the first fire pit. My understanding is the fire pits are on the beach for safety, and so we'll come ashore and have a look for a few minutes, so we know what we got there too. Low water here, so we can get to shore. Oops. Come on. There we go. Just to get our feet wet. That's going to have to do it. The only thing giving me grief today are these darn flies. They look like house flies, but they bite and they really hurt. They don't leave a mark, and they're so fast you can't kill them. I normally don't wear long pants when I'm camping because I get too hot, but I don't know of an answer around it right now because this is kind of tough. Okay, here we are at McConnell Bay Beach Campsite, so I'm going to have a look. So as I came further east, you get to this open area. That opening in the red pines there looked like a snowmobile trail. It just goes on. It's not part of the camping. But you got a nice big open area here for a good sized group, and then there's a kitchen someone has done. So let's, oh, and there's a bathroom. Well, bless their hearts. So this is the place here that you'd want to come. And you can see the sign for the backcountry toilet. And again, a nice little table set up here, which is always nice. Okay, let's go further. So the third site, so just there's the beach and the beautiful lake, or McConnell Bay. And you can see my canoe over there. That's kind of site one. Where the stump is site two I showed you, and here we are at the final one. And there's also a nice area in here, maybe the best of them all from the standpoint of flatness. And again, if you could probably use that backcountry toilet if you wanted to. All right, so I've done my investigating for this area. So now we're going to start the actual travel today. So there's a number of small lakes and small portages. Cherian, Beatty, an unnamed lake, and I think it's Jerry before we get to Marjorie. 100, and then 40, then 70, then 110, then 160, and now we're into Marjorie. So there's a whole bunch of little guys. Just enough that you have to take everything off the boat and put it on again. And that's the way it goes. And then we're into Marjorie. And somewhere in there we'll probably have some lunch. So pretty nice. There's no campsites on these small lakes, but there is a site on Marjorie. But we'll see. All I need is a bit of rock or something to sit my chair on. So we'll see. So we're at the end of McConnell Bay, and now we're trying to use the portage into... To get in here, we can get it on the rocks. We should be all right. See what's possible. That's gonna have to do it, I guess. Okay, I'll have to get out and figure it out. So we're on Chiniguchi Lake finally, and I did have a lunch, so that was a factor. But these small lakes in general aren't the problem, but the put-ins are terrible. The two here, the one on the other side was like a 9 out of 10, 10 being the most difficult, and this one maybe a 6. So that really takes a lot of time from what you think you might take for such a short portage, where you think it might take 15-20 minutes to get the stuff over. Now it's more like 45. Now that's just what it is, and the water levels are probably a little bit lower because of the lack of rain and the heat with the evaporation, but we're moving. So we got a 40 up here at the other end, which hopefully will be easier. And into Jerry Lake, and then there's it's a little longer than this one, and then there's a 70 to the right into an unnamed pond. And then I think we're in Marjorie after that. So that'll be a little nicer, because that's probably a 3 or 4 kilometer paddle down there. Make some distance, and then there's Rathwell and Laundry, and then you've got the gorge to portage into Wolf Lake, and then that's it for today. So we'll see how it goes, and it sure is wonderful to be out here, I will say that. And this day, the air is, this morning was close. It felt quite humid, and everything was damp, and you didn't have to do hardly anything and you're sweating. It's a little better now, and with the afternoon, when it's warm, often we get some breezes, and we certainly welcome today. So we'll see what happens, but this is the unnamed lake between Beatty and Jerry, and I'm just looking for the exit portage. So today is humid, pretty close, and so you don't have to do much to get all hot, which that happens. However, what is important, I think, is how instructive this has been for this type of a trip today. So I have now on my 4th lake and 4 portages, none of which are more than maybe 200 meters. Most of them are shorter than that. And the paddling, of course, is trivial. In many cases, less than a kilometer. And I've gone the grand sum of probably 4.5K in 2 hours. And now it's a very unique experience out here, and the work is great, the training and all that good stuff. But if you're used to covering ground, this type of stuff is really can be demoralizing, because you don't move very fast. I tell you, if a guy had a little convenience store here, I don't know how many people would come by, but in this particular spot, but if they did, I think he'd have no problem paying the mortgage, because he sure could use. That's the one thing I miss in the backcountry of everything at home, from the standpoint of conveniences, is I miss cold drinks. I like cold milk, cold pop here and there, cold water, and so far there are no backcountry refrigerators. So in the distance there is Marjorie, I think. There's probably, like I said, there's a 260-meter portage, but in a narrow river, which I don't think you can run. Well, there's Marjorie Lake, ladies and gentlemen. The last portage is not required. What a shame. So here we are. So this is Marjorie Lake, about halfway across. Pretty quiet today. And it came from over there. So I'm just leaving an unplanned second lunch, which was very nice and well needed, and I feel certainly refreshed from doing it. Pretty hot out here. However, just another instructive thing today. I thought coming down the side here going 15K was a song and I could do it in 4 or 5 hours. So I took my time getting ready this morning. I took my time poking around at McConnell Bay, and here it is 3 o'clock and I still have, if you use my formula, I have 5 hours to go still to get to Wolf. So my mistake was that I did not sit down before I started and just do my equation with what I had in mind and then decide what to do and get going or not get going or whatever, cut it short or something like that. But I didn't do it, and it just shows you you can have all the experience you want. You have to have you can't get complacent. Five hours from, they put me at a site somewhere on Wolf at around 8 o'clock, which means I'm going to be scrambling to get things done before it's really dark. Now, it's not impossible, obviously. It's just not desirable. So we'll see how this goes. I have it at 20 minutes to finish Marjorie here, and then the portage into Rathwell. It should take me 45 minutes total time. Another 20 minutes. And then we have the 500. And there's a short little 20-meter thing in there, which is going to slow me down, so I've budgeted for that. And then I think I'm going to take the 1,000 shot to Wolf. It saves me doing a second transfer. Route here is a much bigger proposition than I thought it was this morning, and I would have known if I had sat down and done the math. So that's my own fault. This is the portage onto Rothwell from Marjorie, and the whole trail's been kind of like this, and just through the trees we can see Rothwell Lake coming up, which is always a nice sign. It's 380 meters, and it's all of that. So this is Rothwell Lake. We're heading down the end for a 500-meter portage into Laundry Lake. Shadow here, get out of that. The sun is really hot. It said 25, I'll bet it's closer to 30. So we're just gonna get a better look at the trees too when we get there. There we go. Oh, that's nice. Go a little further just to make sure. Boy, what a difference. Oh my, that's the way to go. So this is this small 20-meter thing. The water's down about 2 feet, certainly a foot and a half. And so where we could have paddled through part of this, it's now blocked. And so it's probably going to be at least 2 portages. And that whatever they are probably going to be longer than they're supposed to be. Coming up to a blockage here, but water is obviously really low here. I've seen it lower in other lakes, but not this dramatic. So this is the beginning of Laundry Lake. Last lake up before Wolf. And we go across there, and then there's a 1,000-meter portage, and then we should be on Wolf. Boy, what a day. So this is the entrance to the gorge leading to Wolf Lake. It's just an incredible wall of rock. This is taken at half X, so when you're standing beside it, it's pretty impressive. It's probably, I don't know, 40, 50 feet high altogether, I guess. It's pretty amazing how these things get formed. That's the slot where there's a gorge leading to Wolf Lake, but the trees make it hard to see it when you do the trail, from what I've been told. So we're going over there to try and figure out which portage to take. So this portage here, so there's a nice look at Laundry Lake with this magnificent rock face. But boy, the takeout here is crazy. So I'm standing at the water level. This is what you have to do. There you take out, there's a little bit of loose shale here which helps. And then you've got to take everything up this hill to there before you can start doing anything. That's 30 to 40 degrees. And holy smoke, I really underestimated this route today. I am toast. So got these 2 portages left, and hopefully I can find a campsite. So just a little end to day 2 of this trip. I was originally going to do the Sturgeon River thing, and I was all stoked to do that. And when the weather went in the toilet for the weekend, I decided to switch it over and go from Chiniguchi down the Marjorie trail back to Wolf and stay in Wolf and then go home on Friday from Wolf. Now, there's nothing wrong with that in particular. However, I never sat down and really analyzed it, and so it was quite a day. I got done in McConnell Bay, looking around at the campsites and all that kind of stuff around noon, and then I had lunch. So I started around 12:30. I didn't get done till 8 o'clock, and I had to push. And by the last portage, like I was out of water, and that was all I could do. And so that's a lesson to all of us. You got to have your rules, whatever they are, to limit what's going to happen. Now, you could say, well, gee, it could be better, but you can't expect perfect conditions as the norm. And so those trails are not perfect, so that's okay. Holy Christmas, some of those are pretty tough, and those put-ins are the worst. And if you're betting on your put-ins to be quick, you're dreaming. Some of those lakes are down 2 feet, and so you're dealing with put-ins that are all different than what was intended by whoever set this up. Now, this is all wonderful. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of section. There's nothing about that. I'm just saying, I have an equation I use to assess the time, and I try to limit myself to an 8-hour day, and it was 8 hours after 12 noon. So, and I don't like, coming to a campsite at 8 o'clock and having to scurry around in the dark at this time of year to set up my tent and take care of things. So it's a good lesson for me, again, to make sure that whatever's being planned fits into that 7 to 8 hour window. And if it doesn't, then we don't do it. It's supposed to be fun. And I'm very proud of what I did today, but I wouldn't do it again. I'm not saying I wouldn't go to the Marjorie Loop, but I would do it differently because that's a lot. So anyhow, I really appreciate you watching my videos. I'm sorry that there's a ton of stuff I could have videoed today. Me hauling my pack up and down these 40-degree inclines, and frankly, with the timelines I had no time to set it up. I took video in the lakes because the cameras are on the Canoe and it's easy enough to do, but to set up a tripod and everything else, as much as I'd like to do it, that wasn't going to happen today. And so just have to trust me. But anyhow, thanks again for watching, folks, and stay safe out there.
Starting at Campsite 1 on Chiniguchi Lake marked Item 1, I paddled north-northeast to the Ranger Island campsite marked Item 2 and had a look around. I then paddled into McConnell Bay to inspect the famous beach campsites found there at Item 3. After this, I began my trip down through Marjorie Lake to Wolf Lake. This started at the portage into Cherry Lake, marked Item 4, and after a brief paddle and a short 40-meter portage, it led into Beatty Lake, marked Item number 5. After Beatty Lake, I came to a small pond and then into Jerry Lake, marked Item 6. I took my second lunch on Marjorie Lake at Item 7. The jumbled rocks at the difficult 20-meter portage were found at Item 8. The portage into Wolf Lake from Laundry Lake is shown at Item 9. This had a steep start to it and a precipitous descent halfway through. This is rugged country, and the portage trail often went over rocky areas, especially in the southern part. I was then fortunate in the twilight gloom to find a very nice campsite on Wolf Lake marked at item A. This ended a wonderful but challenging day. The total travel numbers for this day were paddling 14.9 kilometers. I had 8 double portages for a total of 66.4 kilometers of walking, or 2.1 kilometers of legitimate portage distance. A total of 21.3 kilometers of human-powered travel for this day, and making then a total of 52.0 kilometers for my trip so far. Today I spent 10 hours and 12 minutes on my travel time, then making a total travel time for this trip up to date of 18 hours and 28 minutes.